Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Companies to watch.
Yes, it is back. We've got another episode of Companies to Watch, and we welcome back Dan Koh. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Ryan. Great to be back amidst this busyness of the general elections that I've been struggling to keep up with since I've been back from my break. But yes, welcome back to Companies to Watch. That's a segment where we spotlight and stock you up with ideas of listed companies that will call for your attention. So we're looking at market trends to risks that might be overlooked, as well as hidden gems or warning signs to steer clear of. So be part of the conversation, 8855-0893, and tell us whether you think it's going to be a hot or not. You ready, Ryan?
Let's go. What's on your table?
Okay, for today, we're returning to the semiconductor space. And more specifically, I'm going to be talking about two stocks, or at least two companies. That's one Huawei and the other Nvidia. And that comes as, Huawei and its Chinese peers, which we've largely seen how they've struggled for years to match Nvidia in terms of building top-end chips that could compete with the US firm's products for training models. And seeking to limit China's technological development, particularly advances for its military. We also know that Washington had also cut off China from Nvidia's most advanced AI products, including the flagship B200 chip. But Ryan, that's all about to change. That's because China's Huawei Technologies is preparing to test its newest and most powerful artificial intelligence processor in the hopes of replacing some higher-end products of US chip giant Nvidia. It is actually called the Ascend 910D, and Huawei has approached some Chinese tech companies about the testing of this product and the technical feasibility of the new chip. And the Chinese company actually hopes that the latest iteration of the Ascend AI processors will be more powerful than the Nvidia's H100. And according to them, it is slated to receive the first batch of samples for the processor as early as late May. So, initial reactions from you so far, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you should be surprised about how this is playing out. If you have restrictions on somebody not being able to get stuff, they will just find another way to get that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, China has decided to go their own way to make their own things, as they've done with many other industries as well. So, making their own chips, and then I suppose building that self-reliance is going to be the name of the game with all the US-China tensions going on right now.
Yeah, certainly. That's definitely going to change the dynamics in the semiconductor space a lot, especially since we've seen how it certainly shook some moves in the AI space. Now, the the 910D chips are successors to Huawei's 910B and 910C chips and are still in the early stage of development. But Huawei did also report that it is set to ship more than 800,000 of Ascend 910B and C chips to customers, including state-owned telecommunications carriers and AI developers such as TikTok parent ByteDance, as early as next month. So that is certainly not playing very well for Nvidia, which has seen its stock fallen as much as 2% just overnight on Wall Street, and that's following the report of Huawei's preparation for its new advanced AI chip and the wake of President Trump's export ban on Nvidia chips to China. And if you look at how Nvidia has performed for the year so far, it's down more than 21% year to date, Ryan, and currently closed at $108.73 as of Monday. That is not the only bad news that's painting for the chip maker. The stock spiraled after the chip maker disclosed in a regulatory filing this month that the US government had effectively banned exports of its H20 chips, specifically for the Chinese market to comply with ever-tightening US trade rules. And according to analysts, that would record a $5.5 billion loss from the policy change, with JP Morgan analysts expecting that the ban would shave up to $16 billion from Nvidia's revenue as of this year. Now, China accounted for $17 billion or 13% of Nvidia's revenue in the fiscal year of 2025, but some analysts estimate that the share could be higher, with some claiming that as much as 40% of Nvidia's revenue comes from China due to chip smuggling. So, like to your point, Ryan, that you've mentioned earlier, the progress made by Shenzhen-based networking and electronics leader has shown that China, it's certainly resilient in the semiconductor industry, especially in the face of efforts by Trump administration to stymie it, including by blocking access to some Western chip-making equipment. That being said, I'm certainly going to go with a hot for Huawei and a not for Nvidia.
Clearly in the right direction when it comes to building their own chips. So Huawei definitely one to watch out for.
Yeah.
In terms of how big a threat it is to Nvidia, that's still up in the air because I would imagine current Nvidia customers, outside of China at least, are not going to be that swayed to switch chips right now. So that compelling case isn't in for them for the current time. So in terms of threat to market share, probably not yet for Nvidia, but of course losing the Chinese market is going to be a bit of a dent. So probably on the same bandwagon as you?
Yeah, it's still definitely up in the air. But we might very well see another case of DeepSeek in the case of the semiconductor space. But it remains to be seen, and we'll see how this develops over time. And that pretty much wraps our analysis of today's Stock in Focus. We've got Huawei and Nvidia. Now, Ryan, here's a fun fact about semiconductors. Now, many of us would know that semiconductor chips are complex structures made of millions, maybe even billions of transistors and other components. But do you know what is the size of the smallest, most advanced chips that can be made today?
I've been hearing the word nano quite a bit. Is it nano? Nano chip?
14 nanometer. That's 1,000 times smaller than a grain of sand. Imagine that.
Try to imagine that, a grain of sand, and then 14 times.
14 times smaller than that. So why does Optimus Prime lead orchestras in his free time?
Okay, why?
Because he's a semiconductor. Okay, that's not too good, but that's all we have for today's Stock in Focus, Huawei and Nvidia.
Yeah, a bit rusty then.
Before acting on the information on Money FM, please consider if it's suitable for your own investment objectives, financial situation, and risk tolerance. To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.